Good evening. Hope everybody's doing alright. Trying to get my audio levels correct. I messed with the headphones and I shouldn't have done that after I'd already had it set. Anyway, man. Fair amount of craziness in the news today. Kind of all over the place. I kind of expect tomorrow's going to be a doozy. I think there was a lot of things today that I think are kind of a setup, so to speak, for tomorrow. Not anything that I know or expect that's going to be super tragic that I know. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but there's certainly, like I've been saying, no lightening up of any of the situations. I got a couple of interesting tabs open for you. Not going to spend a whole lot of time tonight. Going to go over what I've got open here and run through the headlines and close up the week and just chillax. Don't really have any updates as far as we're concerned. Just kind of, I don't know, chillaxing. Not a whole lot to do. Let's see. Did get some more stuff kind of swapped around and organized today, so that wasn't too bad. Howdy, Leo. Oh, let's see. Go ahead and hop on over. China simulates attacks on U.S. warships, says Taiwan. This here says China's not choking up. They might be doing that, but I'm not saying they are. China is taking steps to dominate the waters around Taiwan, drilling with simulated attacks on U.S. Navy warships, and updating its invasion plans to reflect lessons learned from the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The Taiwanese Defense Ministry has reported warned lawmakers in Taipei. China has been using combat drills to carry out simulated attacks on U.S. ships that enter the first island chain, Reuters cited the Taiwan Defense Ministry as saying on Thursday in a report to the self-governing island's parliament. The first island chain refers to a stretch of islands running from the outskirts of Japan to Borneo, a region where Beijing aims to gain strategic control by 2035, the ministry said. According to the report, China is taking steps to prevent other countries from coming to Taiwan's aid in the event of an attack. China's military has ramped up intimidation tactics this year to undermine Taipei's morale and force reunification negotiations, the defense ministry said. China has substantially threatened our nation's defense security and endangered peace, security, and stability in the areas near the Taiwan Strait. Beijing cut off military and climate ties with the U.S. and conducted war games in the Taiwan Strait last month, after U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi defied Beijing's warnings against visiting Taiwan. China considers Taiwan to be part of its sovereign territory and has vowed to reunify with the breakaway province by force if necessary. The Taiwanese defense report suggested that China could use special forces to decapitate Taiwan's command system. Beijing also is capable of using cyber warfare to disrupt communications and could blockade Taiwan, cut off energy supplies, and seek to wreck the island's economy, the ministry said. Although the logistics of a full-scale invasion would be difficult, China has drafted civilian transport ships for amphibious military drills to help prepare for an attack, the report said. China's studies of the Russia-Ukraine conflict have led to modifications of attack plans, the ministry added, without elaborating. The report to lawmakers was submitted one day after the Taiwanese military officials vowed to launch a forceful counterattack and destroy enemy forces if China's People's Liberation Army breaches Taipei's waters or airspace within 12 nautical miles of the island. Also on Wednesday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said Beijing won't resume cooperating with Washington on climate issues until the U.S. addresses the damage done by Pelosi's Taiwan trip. The U.S. side should dispel the negative influence of Pelosi scuttling to Taiwan. Chinese officials have said the visit undermined Chinese sovereignty and encouraged separatists in Taipei. So, they'd be all peed off. So anyway, I thought this was a little crazy. And instead of reading it all to you, I'm just going to play the news video because the actual video here is like 20 minutes long. So I'm just going to let the news video play and let them tell you what happened. This is crazy.
Video of police arresting a pastor in our area who says he was just watering his neighbor's plants.
Sylacauga pastor Michael Jennings was arrested back in May after someone made a suspicious person report. So our Brittany Dion is following this case. She joins us now with a closer look at some of the video. Brittany.
Well, Catherine, Steve, the 20-minute police body cam video you see right here shows police approach Jennings, this man you see here, and he's watering the plants at his neighbor's home. They ask him, does he live there? He says no, but that he's supposed to be there. He then tells police his name and points out to his house across the street. Well, you can see he ends up in handcuffs and somehow arguing, yelling back and forth with a police officer there. The police ask him for ID. He says he does not have to give it to them because he's not committing a crime. His attorney, Harry Daniels, says Jennings was asked to water his neighbor's flowers while they were out of town, and that's why he was seen there actually watering them. But the confrontation with police didn't end, and it grew more intense. He ended up in handcuffs, ended up in jail, and charged with obstructing government operations. Those charges have been dropped, but his attorney says this is not over.
He's right. He's supposed to be here. This is Pastor James Michael Jennings. He's right. They could have moved him out of his cuffs, but they had a conversation and tried to figure out what they're going to charge him with. But nevertheless, this man is stripped away from his family, his home, thrown in jail, fingerprinted, booked, you name it. So those type of damages need to be reconciled.
And there's more to this story. We've reached out to the Childersburg Police Department. More on that, this video that we were just showing you, as well as how Jennings is doing tonight. Back to you.
Yeah, that's just kind of nuts. Anyway, yeah, apparently the guy wasn't doing anything. And you would think, I mean, this just makes sense to me, that if I'm a cop and I roll up on somebody, let's say there's a call of a suspicious person messing around at a house, and I come rolling up, and they are in the process of watering plants or whatever, shrubs, whatever, I'm gonna pretty well, you know, if I'm there on a call, I mean, I'm gonna make contact with them. But there's a very, very high unlikelihood that somebody that was up to criminal activity would hurry up and hook up a hose and turn the water on and be watering the plants, right? To be in the process of doing that when they arrived, you would think should have spoke volumes to the situation. But, and that's my issue with it. I mean, common sense should have played out here. And it just didn't. It just simply didn't. Some people know their rights, and some people know that they're not just supposed to be drones, you know? Just the way it is. They don't like it. Here is, I thought, something interesting. Now, I tweeted this article out today. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's huge. But, Tech tool offers police mass surveillance on a budget. Hope that makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Local law enforcement agencies from suburban Southern California to rural North Carolina have been using an obscure cell phone tracking tool, at times without search warrants, that gives them the power to follow people's movements months back in time, according to public records and internal emails obtained by the Associated Press. Police have used fog reveal to search hundreds of billions of records from 250 million mobile devices and harness the data to create location analysis known among law enforcement as patterns of life, according to thousands of pages of records about the company. Sold by Virginia-based Fog Data Science LLC, Fog Reveal has been used since at least 2018 in criminal investigations ranging from the murder of a nurse in Arkansas to tracing the movements of a potential participant in the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. Surprise, surprise. The tool is rarely, if ever, mentioned in court records, something that defense attorneys say makes it harder for them to properly defend their clients in cases in which the technology was used. The company was developed by two former high-ranking Department of Homeland Security officials under former President George W. Bush. It relies on advertising identification numbers, which Fog officials say are culled from popular cell phone apps such as Waze, Starbucks, and hundreds of others to target ads based on a person's movements and interest, according to police emails. That information is then sold to companies like Fog. It's sort of a mass surveillance program on a budget, said Bennett Cyphers, a special advisor in the Electronic Frontier Foundation, a digital privacy rights advocacy group. The story, supported by the Pulitzer Center for Crisis Reporting, is part of an ongoing Associated Press series, Tracked, that investigates the power and consequences of decisions driven by algorithms on people's everyday lives. Kind of sounds interesting. So anyway, and it goes on into it, like I said, it's quite the lengthy article. I'm definitely not going to read it all. I did tweet it out. It's an AP article. How's the name start out? Tech tool offers police mass surveillance on a budget. So, on AP. So, anywho, let me have a sip of coffee. Oh, man. All right. You get an article talking about surveillance, and then you get something like this. Biden declares war on MAGA extremists. U.S. President Joe Biden has again condemned the large chunk of the American population that supports his predecessor, Donald Trump, saying MAGA forces are an existential threat to democracy and must be defeated. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love, Biden said on Thursday in a primetime speech referring to Trump's Make America Great Again slogan. Speaking at Philadelphia's historic Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, Biden suggested that Trump supporters aim to destroy America's democracy. For a long time, we've reassured ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it is not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it, each and every one of us. The U.S. leader made sure to clarify that not every Republican, not even most Republicans, are MAGA extremists, but the Republican Party is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. Biden urged all Americans to unite in his battle for the soul of the nation and vote, vote, vote to defeat MAGA Republicans. Biden has sharpened his attacks on supporters of the former president in recent days, apparently trying to draw on anti-Trump sentiment to boost Democrat turnout at the polls in upcoming congressional midterm elections on November 8th. My ear is driving me nuts. Says just last week, Biden likened the MAGA philosophy to semi-fascism, arguing that Trump supporters refuse to accept the will of the people, embrace political violence, and pose a threat to our very democracy. It's not hyperbole. Now you need to vote to literally save democracy again, he added at the time. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters on Wednesday that Biden views MAGA Republicans as an extremist threat to our democracy. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I know I didn't say it right. Man. Telling you. Hang on, I gotta have a couple drinks. Ultra MAGA good coffee. I swear. All this nonsense with just putting a name on something and then automatically that, you know, it's supposed to check all these boxes. It's crazy. Anywho. A little shift of gears. I've only got 2 more tabs open. It's going to be, like I say, a pretty quick and easy night. Let's see. Israel bombed both Syrian airports, says Russia. Wednesday's evening's missile attack temporarily disabled the Aleppo International Airport, but also caused damage to the one in Damascus, the Syrian government said on Thursday. The attack, which Syria blamed on Israel, is the first known instance of targeting both civilian airports on the same day. Israeli F-16s launched a total of 16 projectiles from outside Syrian airspace, said Major General Oleg Agrov, deputy chief of the Russian peacemaking mission in Damascus. Syrian air defenses shot down 3 of the incoming missiles, but the others struck the facilities in Aleppo and in Damascus, he added. According to the Syrian Transportation Ministry, the Aleppo runway was damaged, but repairs are ongoing, and the airport is expected to reopen for traffic by noon local time on Friday. As for the Damascus airport, the damage inflicted did not affect operations, the ministry said. Syria retains its full rights to hold the Israeli occupation authorities accountable and bear all legal, moral, political, and financial responsibilities for deliberately targeting the international airports of Damascus and Aleppo and for endangering civilian facilities and lives, the Syrian Foreign Ministry said in a letter to the UN Secretary General and the Security Council, according to the state news agency SANA. And then it goes into history of other attacks and whatnot. But we reported on the one. Alright. And I thought this was a little bit crazy. Boy, we're really going to be done quick tonight. Buy new kettle to save on energy, Boris Johnson tells Brits. Well, what lovely advice. I think we need to take all these leaders that have all this wonderful advice on what people need to do in order to make it through the coming rough times. I think we need to, well, allow them to make it like we are. Anyway, if you have an old kettle that takes ages to boil, it may cost you 20 pounds to replace it. But if you get a new one, you'll save £10 a year every year on your electricity bill, outgoing UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson declared in his final policy speech to reporters in Suffolk on Thursday. Johnson explained that financial assistance for families facing record-high energy bills, which are expected to exceed £3,500 annually on average when the price cap is lifted in October, would be determined by his successor, either Foreign Secretary Liz Truss or former Chancellor Rishi Sunak. However, he reassured onlookers that it would be plentiful. Of course, there will be more cash to come, whoever takes over from me in the months ahead, substantial sums, that's absolutely clear, he said. The caretaker Prime Minister also promised £700 million to fund an expansion of the Sizewell C nuclear power plant, arguing that, like the tea kettle, it was necessary to pay more up front in order to realize savings later and safeguard the UK's energy security. It would be madness not to fund it, he said, outlining the 6 trillion homes it could power and tens of thousands of jobs it would supposedly create. Johnson's critics slammed both the nuclear project funding and the kettle comments as out of touch, characterizing the nuclear energy market as moribund and Johnson himself as either callous or clueless. While Chancellor Needham Zawi said nothing is off the table with regard to the government helping citizens with heating costs this winter, Truss, the odds-on favorite to replace Johnson next week, has already ruled out the most obvious avenue of funding, pledging no new taxes will be imposed to tame the energy crisis. The think tank Resolution Foundation, meanwhile, has published a report predicting the UK would face its worst squeeze of living standards in 100 years, with an unprecedented 2-decade-long wage depression resulting from massive inflation, leaving 3 million more Britons in poverty without government intervention and costing the average family £3,000 over the next 2 years. An IMF analysis published on Thursday found that not only was the UK the worst hit by the energy crisis triggered by EU sanctions on Russian oil and gas, but that the burden was disproportionately falling on the poor, who are projected to spend nearly 3 times more of their income on energy this year than the wealthy. That's nuts. Absolutely nuts. Let me have a few sips of coffee and a couple of vapes. Just chillax. Just like really good coffee, you know? Huh. I'll have to check again. But the last I checked, our local store had my coffee again. It had been MIA for, I don't know, about 2 or 3 months. I mean, I'm good, but the idea is to rotate, to keep buying and rotate. And I did reach a point to where I was like, nope, I got to stop buying coffee because I didn't have anywhere to put any more of it. But we've whittled down on it a little bit. All right. Run through some headlines and get out of here, and then I'll run around with my arms flailing, I can't even say it, and screaming. Be screaming, the end is nigh, the end is nigh. Let's see. Taiwan threatens Beijing with counterattack. You touch me, I'll touch you back. UN report accuses China of crimes against humanity. Japan's military makes largest ever budget request. City under fire before visit of UN nuclear inspections. Or no, that is inspectors. Ukraine launches raid near Zaporozhye nuclear plant, says Russia. A U.S. oil giant vows to sue Russia, says Wall Street Journal. Prices in UK stores soar to 17-year high, says the media. Russian oil giant executive falls to his death. I mean, you know, I'm sure there's nothing to that. You know, just a giant oil executive falling to their death. That wouldn't ever possibly be suspicious. Nah. Unemployment in Russia at historic low, says data. A leaked document exposes hidden Western hand behind British-style anti-worker laws in Ukraine. Human error to blame for UK aircraft carrier breakdown, says Telegraph. Germany made fantastic admission, says Lavrov. Ex-Ukrainian president shares details on talks with Russia. A vegan activist threaten UK's dairy supply. Sanctions hinder Russian gas flow to the EU, says Gazprom. G7 to discuss Russian oil price cap, says Bloomberg. Ukrainian troops captured during raid on nuclear plant, says official. EU nations to discuss curtailing Russian tourism, says Bloomberg. UN team arrives at Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Ukraine suffers heavy losses in failed offensive, says Moscow. British pubs at risk of closure, says the industry. That's very telling. A YouTuber taken to court for infiltrating Fort Boyard. Parents outraged over new sex ed curriculum. More Ukraine military aid coming, the White House says. Oh, you think they've spent plenty over there yet? No, there's more. I'm sure there's billions more. Nothing for you, though. What? Did you get $10 from your grandma for your birthday on PayPal? You better pay taxes on it. U.S. prepared Ukraine for counteroffensive, says CNN. Moscow teases response to prospect NATO bases in Finland and Sweden. Bomb threat, a controversial children's clinic investigated. RT witnesses UN nuclear experts work at Ukraine power plant. Putin won't attend Gorbachev's funeral, says the Kremlin. U.S. seeks to seize Russian corporate jet. U.S. democracy about to crumble, most Americans think, says a poll. Wonder what their first clue was. Russia moles buying friendly foreign currency, says Bloomberg. Ukraine conflict will be over soon, says Belarusian president. There's that article about the tech tool. Poland names amount of World War II reparations it seeks. Russia warns G7 about oil supplies. EU rights court is political, says Erdogan. Man. EU expects high energy costs to linger, says media. Titanic wreckage captured in highest ever quality footage. Twitter allows editing of posts, but only for money. Pay up. Tesla owners go on a hunger strike for Musk. That's pretty dumb. U.S. Air Force sets new diversity targets. Ukraine planned to use IAEA team as human shields, says Russia. Sarah Palin suffers surprise upset in Alaska election. Apparently she can't see Russia anymore. China simulates attacks on U.S. warships, says Taiwan. Oh, I covered that. Turkey shouldn't be only country talking to Russia, says Macron. Trump teases pardon for January 6 defendants. Putin explains Ukraine operation goals to children. And what's happening with our children? Oh, drag queen story hour. UN thanks Russia for keeping IAEA team safe. U.S. children suffer sharp drops in test scores. Imagine that. Google employees protest Israeli military contract. Nuclear inspector reveals next step of Zaporozhye mission. Biden, covered that. Israel bombed, covered that. Duh. That's everything. That is all. Wow. 8:39 is what I see. That was pretty quick. May not be the quickest show, but it's pretty quick. But I am going to take advantage of that, and I am going to chillax and try to have a decent weekend. I urge you guys to as well. God willing, we will be back Sunday. We'll start another week. And who knows, I know I keep threatening to pop on and do some Flight Sim live with you guys, and I just never happen to do it. And who knows, it might happen. No promises. Anyway, I appreciate y'all coming. God willing, we'll be back Sunday. I hope to see you then. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit, and shalom.